Hey there, this is Andrew, and I'm going to bring you a Logos set review for Mass Mutation, and I have with me my good friend Peter. Hey, Peter.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. And Peter is also known as Brobnar89 on the Crucible and the Discord and all the things. So,
Yes, and also on my show Cull the Week that I do with Shaka. So,
yes. And why don't you start by just giving me a brief overview of what kinds of stuff you do? I know you guys do a lot of like deck testing on there, right?
yeah, that's kind of the premise of the show is to play a couple of different games with the decks and see how they perform against with one another, and then the kind of like I don't know, the catch of the show is to decide which one we're going to keep and which one we're going to get rid
To
of or
Cole.
cull,
Yeah.
as the name implies. Yes. um, and lately we've been doing just testing out different sealed matchups.
Cool.
Um, we want to start looking forward to starting the new season with the new set when it comes out.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, some other friends and I were discussing how little sealed testing Mass Mutation has had because we haven't been able to go do it. It's hard to do true sealed online, and
Mm,
it we just don't have a lot. Well, we haven't had opportunities to go do it in person. So
right.
so who knows how that works?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So okay, so then why don't you give the people then also a quick intro to how you got into Keyforge?
Yeah, so I hadn't ever played any competitive card games before. I'd reasonably interested in board games, kind of casually, and played a lot of computer games. And I'd heard of Magic, but I'd never actually even played it at all. And I was living with a buddy of mine at the time who worked at a game store, at our local game store, actually, that you frequented.
Hmm.
Um,
You
and
can say I love gamers. I'm a big fan.
I Love Gamers. Yeah, give them a little plug. Yeah, I Love Gamers in Santa Clara. Um, Go help them out because I'm sure that they're struggling right
Hmm.
now. Um, so he brought home a couple of decks one day and was just kind of like, "Hey, there's this new game. You want to try it out? It's really fun. Let's play sometime." And I was kind of like, "Oh, okay, sure." He was always bringing games home,
Hmm.
and I was always having fun playing them. But it's just another like, "Oh, okay, sure, I'll play another game with you. We'll see what happens."
Hmm.
Um, and I played one game with him that first night at the kitchen table, and I think after our first game ended in like maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes, we were kind of, figuring things out as we went along. And then I think we played for like 2 or 3 hours because I was just like, this is amazing. Let's keep playing.
That's
Let's keep
awesome.
figuring this out. And we had like two decks, and I couldn't even tell you what decks they were, but I'm sure they were total jank. But like, we were having a blast figuring it out and switching the decks. And pretty quickly from there, I got some more decks and we started uh, playing together. We played together a lot. We played a lot of games. We were probably playing most nights of the week. We would get at least a game or two in, and then um, after a couple months of that, I started seeking out other places to play locally and started getting really competitive. And once I found out that I could play online, um, it was all over. And my wife hasn't seen me since. So
um, yeah, and I remember early on, you would like show up to some events, and I could tell there was like a competitive spark there.
Hmm.
But you were kind of tentative and like, I don't know how much. I think you were. It seemed like maybe you were not sure how much you wanted to invest emotionally in,
Uh-huh.
and then there was something. Yeah, it seemed like it was definitely during COVID where like a switch flipped and you were like, okay, I'm just gonna start beating everyone.
That I think that's a very fair assessment.
Uh-huh.
And you know, like I said, I'd never played any sort of competitive games before. And so, yeah, I think there was very much an element of like I didn't want to invest myself too much in it. Um and then, you know, like totally flop. But a big moment for me was when I got into top 8 in the prime in Vacaville, and my mind was just completely blown by making it to top 8. I was like, how I had no expectation that that was going to happen, and felt like really lucky, and you know, obviously was super excited about it. I got knocked out in the first round by Shaka, actually, who is, you know, at even at the time I knew he was an incredible player, and there's no
Yeah.
shame in that. But
Yep. Yeah, I think one of the really fun things, and different people are different what they mean by competitive, but
mhm.
but for me, there's an element of learning in it, and just knowing that I'm not always going to be the best. I'm not going to win all the time, but that everything, whether I win or lose, is an opportunity to learn and get better. And there's a moment where you just realize, like, wow, the people that I'm losing to are people that I didn't even think I was, worthy to play against, and losing to
Mhm.
them feels pretty good. And then
Yeah.
sometimes you beat
No,
them too, and
definitely.
that's even better. Um, but there's like a mutual respect that I think happens, um,
Yeah,
that I
and
really
I
like.
like that I like that idea of always like learning too. Like if you're not learning and having fun, then what's the point of
Yeah.
playing a game?
Yep. Yep. Totally.
And
Okay.
that's very much how I felt in our recent matchup in the
Oh. Oh my
PL
gosh.
qualifiers, where I I managed to pull off a win on a very lucky mind fire on your too much to protect, and that was definitely a moment for me of being like, oh wow, I did not think I was going to win this game.
Yeah. Well,
So
and that's I'll just say, like, and maybe hopefully this will set somewhat of a good example for other tryhards. But you know, like in the moment, I 100% wanted to say what you just said, which is that it was luck. But but in looking back at it later, like at that moment that you played that card, there was a 1 in 6 chance that you would hit my too much to protect. But there were a lot of decisions that led to the moment where you had that card in your hand, whether it's that you held it or archived it, or just that you played through your deck in a way that you eventually got to it, right? Like you'd made decisions that led to you having that in your hand, and I had definitely made decisions that led to me having too much to protect in my hand. They were stupid decisions in hindsight. So, so I think in that high level of play, I think there's a lot of, if you're honest with yourself, you can realize, like, okay, these moments have they have some luck in them, but they also have a lot of choices, and um and it's if you want to get to the next level, you have to own it as a choice, right? You always have to look for
Mm.
where were the choices, because if you think it's all luck, then I think I mean, you were being gracious, but I'm just saying for when you lose and you blame everything on luck, which was definitely my temptation,
Mhm.
it will hold you back.
I think that's a really good point, and I think what you're referring to, perhaps, if I may be so bold, is that the turn before I discarded the too much to protect from your hand, you had the opportunity to too much to
Yes.
protect for a decent amount. I don't
I
remember
think you had
exactly what it
12. I
was.
think you had 12, so I would have stolen
Okay, so
6.
that's actually a pretty that's actually
Yeah.
quite a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
I was
and
so
I
greedy.
think right, right, right. And
I
so I think if you did that, you win that game
Yeah.
like pretty definitively.
Yeah.
There I wouldn't have had much of a chance. So
Yeah.
yeah,
What a
I
thousand
think
percent.
maybe that's what you're referring to about
Yeah.
the decisions you made that led to too much protect being in your hand at that point.
Yep. Yep. I think somebody once asked me like, okay, if you have a choice between the safe play and the bold play, which do you pick? And I think 9 times out of 10, I like to imagine myself anyway picking the bold play, and that is what I
Mhm.
did.
That is an
And
example of you
yes,
doing that. That's true.
whoops, whoops. Um, but yeah, so okay, cool. Enough reliving my trauma. Um, uh, so so let's start digging into logos here. So there are 5 questions um, that I like to go through before we actually start on the cards, and so let's start off with the first of those. So you are sitting across from someone at a sealed event, mass mutation, see logos on their Archon card. What kinds of capabilities do you think they might get out of having logos in that deck?
Okay, so logos in any set, and especially in mass mutation, I think of logos as low go go ghosts, because it makes your deck go go go. So specifically in mass mutation, you're going to see a lot of drawing and a lot of discarding. There's still archiving, but maybe not as much is in some of the other sets. Or at least maybe it's not as much in my mind when I think about logos mass mutation. So the big sort of like draw and discard um mechanics I'm thinking about are like Tirado, obviously, who lets all of your um logos creatures on the board, or all of your mutant creatures on the board, be reap, draw a card. Um, the bot, the dash bot, or bot dash, I guess, creatures who are the like I don't remember what they're called. The like crossover creatures with other houses.
Yeah, I don't know of an official name for them, but yeah, crossover is a good name. Yeah, but yeah, the
Yeah,
ones ending in bot, because they all have
right.
the reap, discard one, draw one.
Exactly, exactly. Which works amazing in combination with Tirado, because they're also mutants, so you get to draw two, and then discard one. Just a note on that for anybody who's been you know playing with those, and if you haven't thought about it, always activate the Tirado draw first, and then you have one more option for what you're going to discard off of the bot discard ability. Um, which is just so much fun, figuring out those little timing mechanics
Hmm.
uh, with the draws and the discards.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and I think like the draw and archive, those types of effects in general, and I think one of the reasons this is really fun is those give you a lot of control over the shape that the takes, right? It's giving you
mhm.
control over what the flow is versus just taking whatever you happen to draw each turn.
Yeah, yeah. Which a lot of like the best, or not necessarily the best, but a lot of like good Coda decks, that's just kind of what you get. Like if you have a like untamed Dis Shadows Coda deck, you're just gonna play the cards that you draw.
Hmm.
Um
They're going to be
like
real
almost
good.
almost and they're gonna be great and it'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
Like almost always you just do the the bouncing death quirk cards plus board thing, and that's gonna be like your best turn. And with the logos mass mutation, there's a lot of times where it's like, oh, I've only got like two logos cards in hand, but like I've got this amazing Torado logos board out, and I'm just gonna reap a bunch and like uh draw a bunch of cards with all my mutants or whatever. So
Yep.
um yeah, and then another really neat discard mechanic is the dynamo, the nuevo dynamo, that lets you at the beginning of your turn you can choose to either discard a logos card from your hand or your archive to gain one, or you can blow up the dynamo. um I think it's a really underrated card. um
Yeah.
I think that like you can get a sneaky forge in there if someone leaves you at 5.
Yes.
um which is just feels great when you're the one doing it.
Yes. So, yeah, exactly, because it's happening at the beginning of the turn before the forge. So yeah, I would
Mhm.
say, um, just to kind of, I guess, encapsulate what you're saying, right? Like, typical of Logos across sets, there's a lot of draw and archive here.
Mhm.
Different, and not that Logos doesn't have discard in other sets, but there's Logos has a lot of discard this set,
Mhm.
as a mechanism for filtering through, and always playing your best options. But that definitely seems to be um, a different, something that is distinct about Logos in Mass Mutation compared to sets.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think all 3 elements are there in all the sets. The emphasis changes in mass mutation to discard.
Yeah, and then I think they also have, they might have more key cost increase cards in this set than any. I'm trying to think, but
Mhm.
um, but there's actually like a lot of hiking the key cost, um, in Mass Mutation Logos.
Mhm. The key lock, the Titan mechanic, is it?
Engineer, I think.
Engineer
Mechanics,
mechanic
yeah,
is the
mechanics the
Coda
Coda
one.
one. Yeah,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, but
Yeah, that was
also, there's also they have another, the Autovac, that also does it.
oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, that's the only other note I had about Logos Mass Mutation is that it's got some of the only large scaling amber control in the entire set in Effervescent Principle.
Hmm.
Is I think I, I can't recall, but I think it's the well, I guess there's the Sanctum card that lets you capture
Bring
everything.
low. Yeah.
Bring low, yeah. But I think Effervescent Principle is the only, like, other than some Dino um, trickery, Effervescent Principle is the only way to delete
Yeah.
large amounts of amber.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's a good point, because in previous sets you would have interdimensional graft and logos, but you would also have, uh, maybe effervescent principle in some of the sets, but then you would also have
Hmm.
doorstep, or too much to protect, or,
Hmm.
um, card,
Even
yeah,
burn the
various cards like
stockpile.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep.
Tribute would be, more. It wouldn't delete it, but if you're tributing, you probably have a way to get it deleted.
Yeah, and it doesn't like burn the stockpile and tribute. They don't scale infinitely, but they go they
Mhm.
they bring an opponent down from pretty high,
Hmm.
for sure. Yeah. Interesting. Um, I think yeah, early on that was one of the things where I thought, oh, is mass mutation going to struggle because of lack of some cards, but that okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It turned out to do pretty well.
Yeah. Um, okay, cool. So then let's say you're playing sealed mass mutation. You open up a deck, you are sliding it out, and you see, oh, there's Logos on the Archon card. What's the next house you hope to see?
So, when I was thinking about this question, I actually just went ahead and looked at my top um, Logos decks to help me figure this out. And I noticed a lot of Dis
Yep.
and Saurian in there.
Mm.
Um, Now, maybe there's like some, well, certainly there's some element of like self selection in there because I sell a lot of decks. So there's a lot of like refining of my collection and, getting rid of the ones that I don't like. Um, but I think that like many, if not most of my top decks have at least one of these two. Um, and my like putting some thought into it, the reasoning that I came up with to that is that my my retroactive reasoning is that it those two houses, and especially Sarian, I think really benefit from being able to put away
Yeah.
cards and refine your hand to set up really big
Yep.
plays.
Yeah, and I think that is a consistent theme for Logos across the sets is that it's very good. Um, it's just a very good amplifier for whatever your other houses are. And Logos has some great tools in
Hmm.
itself, but you're just never sad to see it because whatever else you have in your deck is going to be better at whatever because um so
Right. It's the accelerant. It's the
yeah.
lubricant. Yeah.
So the one I put here was actually Sanctum, and that's because I was thinking about this like again, it's almost you're almost with Logos, you're almost asking just like what's the next best house. So I was trying to think what benefits most,
Hmm.
and my thought was in a similar direction to yours. I just picked a different house. Is that I think Sanctum also benefits from being able to time things. You have a card like Commandeer that is like so strong, but only if you like can burst a bunch of cards on the same turn. Um,
Right. Yeah.
and so I think Sanctum really benefits from being able to kind of tuck it away for a power turn.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Um,
I'm very proud of us that neither of us said shadows.
yeah, well, and in Coda, Shadows is probably the right answer, but
Right.
um, yeah. Okay, so then what is your favorite in-house combo for Logos and Mass Mutations?
I'm cheating a little bit here. I thought of two.
Uh-huh.
Um, um, so uh, the dynamo
Uh-huh.
with a causal loop
Oh,
is
yeah.
a really fun, neat little combo. The the deck that I was playing in the game we were talking about earlier has dynamo and causal loop. Um, and it's just great because causal loop gets a lot of shade thrown at it. Um, and I get why, because it's like, okay, why isn't this just a lab work?
Right.
Um, but right, yeah, like, I don't want to have this in my hand later, clogging up my hand. Like I want to get it through and get the amber on the lab work. But with the dynamo, um,
Yeah, you convert
you
it
get
to a
to put
lab
it
work.
into your archive. Sorry.
You convert it to a lab work essentially.
You convert it into a lab work, basically. Yeah, exactly. And and it has the flexibility that, you can use it again if that's what
Right.
makes sense with your like hand composition. So Um, my other one that I thought of was library card and Lethalogica, because it amplifies your the power of your library card um
Yep.
more than it already is, because again you get to choose the timing of when you make that draw. So you play your Lethalogica, um which lets you discard all your cards until you find the Logos, and then you get to draw for the library
Next
card
one.
after.
Yep.
Right. So you're significantly increasing your chances of drawing another Logos card.
Yeah, that's pretty. And I think like that goes. Well, I guess we'll talk about this logical, but I think of Lethal Logica as almost like the opposite of Wild Wormhole um because either one is saying, hey, you're going to play two cards. It's just the Lethal
Hmm.
Logica is guaranteeing it's going to be a Logos card, whereas the Wild Wormhole is
Right.
just, hey, whatever's there. Um,
Right, right, right.
so my combo here is the Auto Dynamo, and this is you have Auto Encoder and Novu Dynamo, and it's
Mm.
just like it's such a great engine because every turn you're pitching a Logos card, get that Amber, archive the top card of your deck, and like that's a lot of speed, both in terms of amber and cards to be doing that every turn. And if you get it in the right deck, you just never go Logos after that, right? You have those two cards on the board,
Hmm.
you never go Logos, and you just keep eating the Dynamo and playing for other houses. Just crazy.
Right. Like in essence, your Logos is idling like
Yeah,
the entire time. It's kind of just keeping you going like throughout the whole game there.
yeah,
That's and get a causal loop in there and you
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, 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 absolutely. Okay, so then, what, uh, what Maverick would you most like to see Mass Mutation logos?
I think it would be really fun to have a Captain Val in Logos. Um Captain Val is, I don't know. You could just have Star Alliance with Captain Val in your deck,
Sure.
but I think it would be really fun just to have it in Logos, just to sort of like uh, amplify the go 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 effect of Logos that's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would just make a good thing even more of a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. I think, though, interestingly, I don't think the leaders can Mavericks. Um,
Oh, really?
yeah, which is a
That's unfortunate.
bummer. That's not. It's still fair to wish for that, um, but yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing, I think. But uh, yeah, Star Alliance and Logos, like they paired together so nicely in Worlds Collide, I thought. But then I feel like the Mass Mutation Star Alliance is just a little bit less of an accelerant, which probably
Hmm.
differentiates them a little more from Logos. But yeah, Worlds Collide, you would get the two together and just be insane. Um,
Right.
and
Right.
but yeah, Val is excellent card and would be super cool. Uh, so my answer here was punctuate equilibrium, and this just continues my obsession
Mm,
with autoencoder, but um, having
right.
punctuate equilibrium uh, in logos with autoencoder. Stupid.
That
Yeah,
would be crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's already really good when you have it in
yeah,
Untamed, but then you can just um make your go 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 Logos turn even more of a good thing.
yes. Okay, and then last question here is what legacy card would you like to see?
I think it would be really, really fun to have a time traveler uh,
Ooh,
mass mutation deck. Get a lot of deck manipulation in there. Get that extra draw in there. Um, yeah, I think you could see um, some really fun, powerful decks with time traveler.
yeah, yeah, that would be pretty cool for sure. Um, well, I think there are 12. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Well, there, there
go
you go.
hunting. And yeah, so mine. I don't know how many of these there are. Mine is Edai. Um, just it's
Mm,
such a strong card. Um, that I would love to see it. But same is true for time traveler. Those are probably two of the stronger uh cards that have been out there.
yeah, Edai would be. Um, I mean, it would definitely be great. I do think one of the advantages to Edai in Worlds Collide is all the wording that
Hmm.
is available in Worlds Collide, and especially in Logos. I don't think there's any Logos wording in Mass Mutation. Um, so it would be, you could probably plant it behind some sort of taunter if you could
Yeah,
find that. But yeah, yeah, it would be extra nice if you had it in a Dino deck with some warding or something.
right. Yep, that would be the way. Um, okay, cool. So, um, wow, I know a person who is selling one. I'm going to have to ping. Uh, um,
Edai or
the Edai, the time traveler.
okay.
There's a time traveler one for sale, and uh, I will send it afterward.
I'll have to
Also,
see.
also
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
we have some friend of a friend connections to.
Oh,
You'll
okay.
you'll
Wow.
you'll flip
Well.
to the deck. You'll actually. Okay.
Oh,
So,
great, great.
um, yeah. Well, this is fun theory crafting. Okay, cool. So, that is that for the questions. So let's go ahead and dive into cards. So,
All right.
so actually, the first one I have up on the screen is Dark Amber Vault, which of course can happen in any house. Um,
Hmm.
but it's an artifact, it's a location, and it says after you play a mutant creature, draw a card, and each friendly mutant creature gets +2 power. Um, and I think the most interesting thing, if you get this with logos, whether it's in logos or in a house, but if you get some of those logos, having big logos creatures always just there there aren't a lot of them typically. Um,
Hmm.
and so suddenly having your your not hex beyond, but what's his name? Having your smoke be power and like that, just so
Yeah. Hmm.
um and
Yeah, and Torado, a 6 power Torado is
yeah,
pretty nasty to deal with, especially if you've got a few of those dash bot
yeah,
creatures out as well.
ugh. Yeah, and of course this pairs well with logos because you're gonna just draw, and then this is gonna draw some more. Yeah, you're just gonna be drawing.
Yeah, it definitely feels like the most relevant or appropriate house for you to find a Dark Amber Vault in.
Yeah, for sure. And we know those logo scientists, they wouldn't be able to help themselves. They'd be like, it looks dangerous, but that's the fun part.
Right.
Um, okay, cool. So and then the next one, oh, I'm glad I get this one, is auto encoder. It
Yeah.
is an artifact. It's an item. It says after a card is discarded from your hand, archive the top card of your deck. And the interesting thing that is not spelled out anywhere is it is not possible to get more than one of this deck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably good. That's probably a good thing.
You'd get a lot of enjoyment out of discarding the second copy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, um, would it not stack the way it's worded?
Oh yeah, it would. That would be too good.
That would be okay. Okay, I thought so.
Oh wow.
Yeah. This might be uh my favorite card.
Mhm.
And I think we're in similar territory on this. It's just such an interesting card. It was actually in I had this in the very first mass mutation deck that I opened and played.
Uh-huh.
Um and I was just like blown away. Like this it totally changes the discard mechanic from like, oh, well, I guess I'm just gonna discard this to like being something like you're like, oh, do I do I play this or do I discard it? Ooh, that could be great. I could discard this. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's just so fun.
Yeah. Totally. 100%. All right, cool. Next one.
All right, this is Bot Bookton. This is a creature, mutant scientist, and it has the reap ability. Play the top card of your deck. This is the mutation of Doc Bookton from Coda Days.
Yeah, and I think so. Um, and not only of Doc Bookton, but it seems like merged with HelperBot, who
Right.
already had a
Yeah, yeah,
connection with
yeah.
her. Um, it's interesting to me. I think like so. This is thinking from a weird meta card space perspective, but um,
Hmm.
every single card that was in all three of the first three sets is not mass mutation, and one of those is wild wormhole. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
this very much, takes that place of wild wormhole, but
Hmm.
having to get a creature to stick on the board and then so different. But it is
Yeah.
kind of trying to fill that same space, I think. Anyway, just very interesting from that perspective.
Yeah. I have a very, very fun deck with library card and Lethalogica and two Lethalogica and two Bot Booktons and a QMX. Um, and that deck can go absolutely crazy with the if you can play your if you can trigger library card with your Bot Booktons on the board, it's madness.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, totally. Huh. All right.
The next one here, one of the dash bot cards we were talking about, the Demo bot, which is the Shadows merge, correct?
No, Demo is Dees.
Oh, is this okay? Um, this is a creature, a mutant scientist, has the reap. Discard a card from your hand. If you do, draw a card ability, and it has also the destroyed steal one ability.
Nice. How do you rank this in among the bots?
Um, I mean, it's pretty good. It might be the best one
Uh-huh.
in my opinion, because I mean, destroyed steel what like that's pretty good disincentive for your
Yeah.
opponent to kill it off. Um, and if they don't kill it off, you're just getting lots of efficiency every turn.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think we'll see the other ones later, but a lot of them have effects that will sort of uh the rest of them either have something that makes it a little harder to kill or
Hmm.
that just 100% doesn't synergize. So
Right.
um
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
so this one is out of the ones that has synergy, it's the easiest to kill, but it yeah, but it also has that disincentive like you said. I think it's
Hmm.
great.
Yeah, fun card for sure.
All right. So next up is Daughter, which is back from Worlds Collide, and this is a 2-power cyborg scientist with elusive, and says during your draw card step, refill your hand to one additional card, which is always good.
Yeah, can't argue with the daughter. Always happy to see daughter in any deck.
Yeah, and I think one thing I think about with cards like Daughter or Mother, any of these is that a card draw in your draw in your hand step is a
Hmm.
draw that happens before you make a choice, right? And so um, always better than just a draw during your turn because you're getting to
Mm,
see this before you make the decision about what house you're going to choose, and of course the fact that it's just a constant ability of it also really
yeah, yeah, and I think something that was clarified for me in Mass Mutation, which we've kind of touched on a little bit, is that discarding during your turn is way more powerful than drawing during your turn because you can discard, open up that hand space, um, and like you say, you get the ability to open up that space, and then you get more cards before you make a decision as to what house to play next.
yeah. Yep, totally. Okay. And then the next one is Diametric Charge. This is an action with a bonus amber, and it says play, deal 1 damage to a creature with 2 splash. So it's the opposite of Hound, Grobnar. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I always forget that because I want to do the 2 damage to the one in the middle, but no, it only does one in the middle and then 2 to the ones on the outside. But opens up some cool making space.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, great anti Worlds Collide board um tech here. Get rid of those wards, get rid of those you know, daughters, or if you've got a Restringuntus you need to take care of that's behind taunt or something. There's lots of great use cases for this.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So next we have Eclectic Inquiry. Really fun card. We haven't, kind of surprised we haven't mentioned it yet, but it's got a Amber Pip on it, and it is play, archive the top 2 cards of your deck.
Yeah, what's not to like?
Yeah, seriously. It's kind of like the less good version of like you might mull for it in the right deck if you're going first. Like it's not quite as good as getting Eureka
Right.
on that first little mini turn, but if you can play it on that first little mini turn, that's a pretty good start to your game.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm never sad to see it because it just helps accelerate. Obviously, the random archives, which is a lot stronger this set than it was in. It happens a lot more in this set than the previous sets.
Hmm.
Is sometimes doesn't work out the way you'd want, but Um, but the kind of exchange of just getting to do so much archiving.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. More cards is always better. And in this set, um, you're not trying to like put away the too much to protect for like the perfect moment or something.
Right.
So, although a card that you might be trying to put away for the perfect moment would be the next one here. Effervescent Principle is the action. We were talking about it earlier. Each player loses half their amber, rounding down the loss, and then you gain a chain. Well worth it for that trade off. Um, Incredible card. Like we were mentioning earlier, I don't want to say with complete certainty, but I'm like 90% sure that this is the only like single card that allows you to delete a bunch of amber in mass mutation. Um yeah,
Yeah.
it's just incredibly powerful, and with all the archiving and hand manipulation in logos in this set, it's very easy to hold it for the right moment.
Yeah. Yeah. You have a really good chance of getting it when you hope to.
Hmm. Right after you forge and your opponent has a bunch of amber. Yeah. Yeah, it's in case I needed to clarify that for you.
Yep.
um, it's definitely like uh yeah, it can be very effective, and that one chain, your most mass mutation logo decks, you're not even gonna feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Just gonna keep moving along with the archives for sure. Okay.
Hmm.
So the next one is is a fun one, even Ivan, and we'll see the pair to this later, which is Odd Claude. Um, but even Ivan is a 4 power mutant scientist with action. If your opponent has an even amount of amber, steal one. Um, and I found it that I mean, getting to steal one is great. Um, it works best if you have like other cards that allow you to kind of get to that point of having an even amount. So
Hmm.
I've I I've had this in one deck that has like a Humex with a capture icon on it. That worked out really
Right.
well because you can play that
Yeah.
before if you need to or after if you need, depending on the moment. Um,
Right. And with it being on a QMAX, you're more likely to have it in your hand when you've got Ivan on the board ready for use.
right. And then the other thing that's kind of weird to me, most cards that have a special rarity, it's pretty clear what the relationship is. But that's not quite true with even Ivan and Odd Claude because they have that special rarity, but they aren't tied to each other. So you can get one without the other. You can even get multiples of one with none
Hmm.
of the other, or
Right.
different amounts of them. And so I could speculate, but it's not entirely clear to me exactly what the special relationship is to two cards.
Yeah, that's strange. They're pretty like fixed relationships with the other special rarity cards. So that is unusual. I played against one deck that had I believe it was two even Ivans and one odd Claude, and that could get that could get pretty annoying if
Yeah.
all three were out on the board.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, okay, and then the next one is Infomorph, and Infomorph is a 4 power mutant with two draw enhancements. So we haven't talked about enhancements yet, but for anybody who's played Mass Mutation, they'll already know this. But I guess just as a primer, when you see enhance and then icons, it's saying it's actually going to add those pips to some cards in the deck, and which deck is random. So there are going to be a couple of icons in the deck that when that card is played, the first thing you're going to do is draw a card for icons that's on there. So it's almost like a play draw two, except that the draws are spread out on your cards instead of being on this creature.
Mhm.
Um, so if you think about it that way, if it's like a 4 power mutant with play draw two, like that's pretty good.
Right, right. And it it might be just because of that mechanic that those two draws are spread out throughout the deck that I'm always kind of like a little annoyed with Infomorph.
Yes.
I feel like I want there to be specific other cards when I see Infomorph. I either want there to
Yeah.
be Auto Encoder or Tirado or Dark Amber Vault, something that's
Auto
going to
auto
give me
encoder so you can discard the infomorph. Uh,
Auto Encoder so I can discard the Infomorph, still
Torado
have the
or Dark
draws.
Amber Vault so you can play the infomorph and get good value out.
Right, exactly. Get that mutant value out of it, or
Yeah. Yeah.
something like in yeah, like something to play off the mutant effect.
Yes.
Johnny Longfingers or
Yeah.
something.
The,
Um Otherwise it's kind of just like a 4 power body.
right. The other thing that I think I have against infomorph is that Cronus is almost just a strictly better version.
Mm,
We'll come to it, but
yeah,
it's one less power, um, but its effect is so good. So
yeah, yeah.
so it just seems a little silly. Anyway, but if you have a Cronus is another one that if you have that, then you're happy to see the
That's
because
true.
it means
Yeah,
more
yeah, because
more
it'll help
icons.
you out in other spots there. Yeah.
All right. Oh, hey, you like this one?
Oh yes, yes. This is a very fun card. Lethalogica uh, is an action with Amber Pip on it. It reads: play, discard cards from the top of your deck until you discard a Logos card or run out of cards. If you discard a Logos card in this way, put it into your hand. So this is just really fun way to just kind of mill your deck and dig for those Logos cards. And like you were saying earlier, you're uh it's like Wormhole. You're gonna play another card, but you're just guaranteeing that it's gonna be Logos.
Yep.
And you avoid the kind of um the downfall of Wild Wormhole, which is that you play something that you really didn't want to play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Wild Wormhole always has a chance of playing the card you'd least like it to,
Yeah, a
and
badly timed gateway or a Chota when you have two amber or something.
right. Yeah, if Wild Wormhole hits Effervescent when you're at 20, um,
Hmm.
bad. If Lethal Logica hits it, good. So yeah,
Right, right. Just hold on to it for later or
yeah,
discard it
yep,
if that's what's right. Yeah. Although you do run the risk with Lethal Logica of discarding your bad penny or discarding gateway to disc that you need or like something
right,
that you really want that you don't want to discard, so
yeah.
there's a trade-off.
I can guarantee you did not mean bad penny. Would ever be sad to discard that. I know, but I know what you mean. You would be
The
sad to
other one,
discard a
the
rad
not
penny.
bad
Yes,
one.
yes,
Yeah, if you discard your rad penny you'll be very upset.
yes.
All right, and the next one we have here is the Munchling. This is a 3 power mutant creature. This is a skirmisher, and the fight ability is you may discard a Logos card from your hand or archives. If you do, gain 1.
Yeah, this one I think is kind of a sleeper, and I think
Mm,
maybe I underrate it mostly because it usually ends up dead pretty fast.
sure.
But that's actually a pretty good ability.
I um kind of pairing with what I was saying about the dynamo earlier. I
Hmm.
like it a lot with causal loop. You can even trigger that in the same turn. So you play your causal loop, put um whatever key card away into your archive for later. Grim reminder goes into your archive, and then you fight with the munchling and discard the causal loop from your archive, gaining one, and cleaning up that archive for when you want to pull it later.
Yeah,
So it can have some neat use cases, but I mean, I think Dynamo's better because most of the time, when you're fighting with it, um, you want to be playing. You might There's a good chance you want to be playing those logos cards instead.
yes, yeah, that's very fair. Um, yeah, and Dynamo, yeah, firing on every turn. Yeah, no disagreement there. Dynamo is definitely better.
Yeah. I guess if you had it like a gray rider or something, that could be pretty good.
Yeah, yeah,
If you
maybe
can fight with it off house,
right.
then it can act like a dynamo for you.
I have a pretty good deck that has Quixo with one stood against many, and that is a really
Mm.
fun feeling when you off.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Um, okay, the next one is opposition research. So this is an action. It adds a damage enhancement somewhere in your deck, and when you play it, enemy creatures cannot reap during your next turn. Uh, that's yeah. I think this one is underrated too. Like sometimes these
Mm.
you know troll abilities get um, especially in logos get overlooked, but uh, your enemy creatures can't reap. It's pretty strong.
Yeah. This is one that will make you learn to read the TCO log very carefully. When you start your turn thinking you're gonna reap with like six creatures, and then you discover that you cannot. Yeah, it's kind of one of those ones that's like, yeah, it's definitely good, and then it's a bit of a sleeper
Yeah.
if you're not paying attention.
Yes, and good note that I mean I think this is just you know, everybody has to decide what kind of player they want to be, but um, I'm the kind of person that if I remember, I'm going to put in the chat eh, right before I pass my turn. Hey, you know, opposition research. just remember.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
and in yeah, in an in-person, it's one of those things like you were saying in an in-person event. These things tend not to get missed so much unless somebody's just really
Mhm.
playing fast. But
Yeah, it's less of an issue
yeah.
in person. Yeah.
All right, and then the next one is QMEX, and this one is a one power robot with play, draw a card, and destroyed archive QMEX. Um, and I find this delightful, but it is even more delightful if you can get enhancements on it. It's
Oh
clearly
yeah.
better with enhancements.
What do you think would be the best enhancement to go on it?
Oh, just draw, just amber.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Just generate every turn. Um. Yeah, that's pretty great.
Partially, if you turn this into like a dust pixie that archives itself, um, you
Right.
and draws you a card. Like the best part
Yeah.
is that it's not gonna get infernused
Right.
because it's always going back to your archives. Same with
Yeah.
Rad Penny.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And of
Yeah,
course
it's
I'd rather
inferno
have Rad
proof.
Penny. Steal one is better than draw a card, but draw a card is pretty good.
Yeah, and again, that keep reminding you of when I beat you. That deck has a. Oh no, it's not that deck. That's a different deck. My another great mass mutation deck that I have has
Uh-huh.
a Rad Penny enhanced with an Amber, and that is just
Yeah.
is ridiculously good.
Yeah, I have one. It has three Rad Pennies, and you would think I would play it more, but it struggles in certain cases. But three Rad
Mm.
Pennies. One of them enhanced with a Amber, and one of the others enhanced with a capture and a draw. Um, so and the capture you would think would be anti-synergistic, but most of the time people have two, and you can works. But
Right, right. Um, Yeah, I think the only scenario where I would want maybe something other than Amber on the QMX would be if you have Chronos and you
yes,
could
ooh,
if you had a draw
oh
on the
yeah,
QMX, which I think Dave Cadero has a a known a known QMX deck with that exact setup in it. So
yeah. That sounds good.
yeah.
Uh,
All right, the next one, yeah. Wait, wait.
hey, you're up. You're
Yeah.
good.
The next one here is yes. The next one here is Kehoe the Adventurer, sometimes pronounced Quixo, uh the Adventurer.
Uh huh. I've heard it both ways.
Through Yeah, sure. Me too. It's a 3 power creature, a human scientist with skirmish, and this is fight, draw a card. It's a classic Coda card. Um This is one that I definitely had a lot of fun with in early Coda days, but as I was saying earlier, um, I don't know. At a certain point, you realize like draw is it's good and it's fun, but I think there are other efficiency mechanics that are better.
Hmm. Yeah, I think when you realize that only one out of every three draws statistically is going to be playable, um,
Right.
it yeah, it dampens it a little bit. But 3 power skirmish can just on its own be pretty good sometimes, and sometimes you'll
Mhm.
hit something that like, oh man, that changed the game, which is a good feeling. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, and then I think notably the art on the card is our beloved Overlord Brad, um,
Right.
who left
Right.
us, but we still hold him in honor in our hearts.
Yes, and he lives on in Kehoe, so there you have him.
Yeah,
The next one we have here is standardized testing. This is an action. It reads play, destroy each creature with the lowest power and each creature with the highest power.
yeah, it's real good with QMX and Rad pennies.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean it's not a ton of board control in mass mutation logos, so um it can be pretty helpful to have one of these, especially if you're playing against someone with some giant dinosaur or other gigantic creatures, and you need a easy way to remove those.
Yeah. I don't know why I never thought about this before, but there's that Mars creature up at the front of the class. That's a little Mars doing in a little classroom, but I guess he got adopted.
Right, that's cute.
Um, yeah, I think this is pretty cool. The only thing that's a bummer is like having this with Novu Dynamo or other big stuff where it's like I didn't I didn't think I was gonna have the big creatures, but I guess I'm the biggest creature.
Right. Definitely a case where you want your auto encoder out on the board so you can discard it and fish for something better.
Yes, and some days Dynamo eats the testing, and sometimes testing eats Dynamo. That's just circle of life.
That's right.
Um, all right, cool. So next up is Titan Engineer. This is a 6 power cyborg scientist, and while it's not on a flank, he's cost +1. That's for you and your opponent. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's an interesting effect. Just to be able to bump the key cost around like that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely can help you out in a pinch, and it's going to be pretty hard for your opponent to take care of. It's a big body, so
Yeah,
it gives you some minimal amber control. Logos, not really known for its amber control, so um, it's good. It's good when you can make those just that little bit gets you to get your opponent off check there.
yep. Okay, and then next is Bouncing Death Quark, and this one is an action, no bonus amber, but it says play destroy an enemy creature and a friendly creature. You may repeat this effect as many times as you like, as long as it is possible to repeat the entire effect. And this one's really fun with UMEX because hey, I'll pop these out here, draw cards, and then get to destroy enemy creatures. But
Basically for free. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's just all around great card.
Yeah, incredible. This one's been around for a while as well. Um, but just the ability to destroy so many creatures, and even if you don't have QMEX, you can destroy, your infomorph or your
Right,
whatever other kind of just dummy creatures that are sitting on the board not doing you a ton of good.
right,
And in return take out, your opponent's gigantic creature or
right.
uh their Restringus or whatever like really key cards they have over there. It's just really solid card.
Yeah, and yeah, that is the key, right? Because it's a mirror effect, but you're killing your least desirable creatures and their best creatures.
Mhm.
Always a good trade.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And you can also just, if you don't have anything on the board, you can just destroy anything on their side for free.
Yep. Yeah. All right. We're on to the uncommons.
Okay.
Actually, that
Here we
I guess
are.
that one was the first uncommon. So here's the second.
Oh, okay. Here we go. The second, uh, a
It's your
card we've
favorite.
discussed a couple times already. Causal Loop. Play, archive a card, archive Causal Loop.
Yep.
Like I was saying, I think this card gets a lot of shade thrown at it. It's definitely one that people don't really see the value in, and I think you need it in combination with the right cards to make it good.
Hmm.
There are definitely decks that this probably doesn't work out so well in.
Yeah. Nice if you can get it enhanced too.
Yeah, get a draw icon on there, amber icon on there. Yeah. Next one, another one we've discussed a lot already. Chronos. Um, 3 power mutant creature with enhance 2 draw icons. So again, those are going to be put on some other randomly assigned cards in your deck. And then it says after you resolve a draw bonus icon, you may archive a card. Really, really strong, really powerful, just extra accelerant to any deck with especially if you've got an even more draw icons than just the two Chronos provides itself. Um, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is very good. Yeah, obviously depends on how many other draw icons you get, but if you have a bunch and you keep this protected and safe, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so next up is Dimension Door, and this one I still don't love, but I think it does a little better here than it did in Coda. Dimension Door is an action that is played for the remainder of the turn. Any amber you would gain from reaping is stolen from your opponent instead. And I always felt in Coda like this just logos didn't stick on the board enough for this to work. Um,
Hmm.
but it is logos is a little stickier in Mass Mutation, and so I think
Right.
it gives Dimension Door a little bit more of an opportunity to pop. And if it does, and you have like a Torado or something like that, then you're just getting insane value at that point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with how hard it is to trigger, I feel like maybe it should read um each creature, or like each for the remainder of the turn each creature gains reap, steel, and amber, so you get like the reap, amber, and
Right?
another one, or like at least have like a amber pip on it or something,
Yes.
because it's so often just a dead discard that does
Yes.
nothing for you at all.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Um, okay, cool. And then the next one, though, very good card is
Hmm.
Discombobulator. It is an upgrade with a bonus amber, and it says this your amber cannot be stolen. Uh, and that is just fantastic to throw that onto your most durable creature and then turn off whole deck archetypes.
Yes, yes, it can be a major headache for a shadows player, um, and again, it's one of those cards like opposition research, where if you are not paying attention and this gets played and you didn't notice it, you could be in some serious trouble.
Yep. All right.
The next one we have here is Fission Bloom. This is a artifact. It is a power. Um, it has one enhance draw icon, and it has the ability that reads action. The next time you play a card this turn, resolve each of its bonus icons an additional time. This is definitely a very mass mutation card.
Yes. Uh, yeah, and the yeah, it's either like it either is basically action gain an amber or like action win the game, depending on depending on what else you have, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty hit or miss.
Yeah, it's usually
They're
action gain an
they're
amber.
right. And there are some decks where it can get a lot done, but yeah, like 9 times out of 10 or more, it's going to be that. It's going to be action gain and amber. Yeah. You really want this in a deck with a mavericked fertility
Yeah.
chance. The next one we have here is Forge Compiler. This is an artifact. It is an item, and it reads after your opponent forges a key, destroy Forge Compiler and ward each friendly creature.
How,
pretty solid. Anytime that you're counting on your opponent to forge a key to do something, it's kind of a little bit. I don't know. The
yeah.
incentives work out weird for you, but you can't complain about warding up a big board. That's pretty great.
Yeah, ward each friendly creature is pretty strong. I I have a problem that
Mhm.
I always forget this. If I'm playing in person, I forget that to my
Yeah,
shame.
yeah, yeah. That gets yeah. That's not something you want to forget is out there for sure.
Okay, so next up is Group Think Tank. This is back from Worlds Collide. It's a 4 power robot experiment with 3 armor. And it says action, deal 4 damage to each creature that shares a house with at least one of its neighbors. So if for each creature that has a neighbor that is house, it's going to get zapped for 4. Yeah, pretty. That's a lot of damage.
That is a lot of damage. That can take care of quite a lot of stuff. Um, I feel like the decks where I have this, I can never have the foresight to like set up my
Mm,
battle line in a way that it will be, more
that doesn't
beneficial
wreck
to
you.
me.
Oh,
Yeah, so so I often end up just reaping with a group think tank, but it can do a lot versus like a Worlds Collide board or a Mass Mutation board with a
yes.
lot of those low power creatures.
Yep. Yeah, and having a 4 power body with 3 armor is also like not terrible.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Um, okay, and then we have Kurzap. Did I pronounce it right? I think so. But
I
Kurzap,
think you said three of each letter.
yes.
Very well done.
Thank you, thank you. I practiced. So Kurzap is an action, and it says play destroy each non-mutant creature and gain a chain. And this one, there's the one in Sanctum that destroys each mutant creature. This I think is stronger because it is like if you have it in the right deck, it is a total board wipe against almost every non-mass mutation deck, and
Right.
and
Right.
and does very little to you for 1 chain. That seems strong.
Yeah. No, no, definitely. Um yeah, it's definitely a card, and there are a few of them in Mass Mutation that the strength depends a lot on the set that you are playing against. So it has a lot of non Mass Mutation hate, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's what's that untamed card that gets you an amber for each player gains an amber for each mutant creature they have
Oh
out.
yeah, the Vault's Blessing. Yes.
Yeah, similar to that is very much like um punishes your opponent for not also playing Mass
Right.
Mutation.
Right. How dare you bring another set? Yes.
Which aligns with my worldview very heavily.
um, yeah. And then you have Crystal Surge, which just punishes you. Um,
Right.
all right.
So the next one we have here is Mutagenic Serum. This is an artifact with an amber pip on it. It is an item. It has the Omni ability, destroy mutagenic serum. You may use friendly mutant creatures this turn. Also a very like mass mutation
Yeah.
theme focus kind of card. Um, it can be very powerful
Yeah.
in the right deck. Um, so it's kind of like the uh, Sanctum artifact, Sigil of the Brotherhood, where if you trigger it at the right time, you can basically get a mega like double turn.
Yeah, yeah. Then that's anytime you can pull off, you're happy.
Definitely. The next card is Neurosiphon. This has an action. This has an amber pip on it, and it reads: Play. If your opponent has more amber than you, steal one and draw a card. Um, yeah, pretty good. Can't argue with that.
Yeah, I think the one thing you just have to mentally, remember is that you have to get the amber before you make the comparison about whether you're so you need to
Hmm.
start at least two down before fire. Um, but if it doesn't fire, it's just an amber. But if it does fire, that is such a great effect.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I've when I started playing, I was definitely guilty of holding it uh, for the right turn for when I was down. I do not recommend doing that. That was definitely a mistake. Just play it for the amber and move on. If you're not going to get the steal and draw a card, it's okay. It is not worth it is not worth holding.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's accurate.
All right, the next one uh, has been a star of the show this evening. Um,
Yep.
Novu Dynamo. This is a big creature. This is 8 power, 2 armor robot. It reads: at the start of your turn, you may discard a logos card from your hand or archives. If you do, gain 1 amber. Otherwise, destroy Novu Dynamo, which I guess is not. Um, Maybe we mentioned it earlier, but that is an important uh, element to the card, which is
Yeah.
that
Run
if
out
you
of
choose
fuel.
not to discard a card, or if you run out, yeah, if you run out of logos cards in your hand, then it goes away.
Yep. That is important, but I mean, it's just so good.
It
it's
is it is just very good. You, that's the other thing we didn't mention about it is a 8 power
yeah,
2 armor creature, which is just like, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you can do a lot with that.
yeah. It'll knock down most things and their neighbors.
Yeah.
um. Okay, so next one up is Positron Bolt, and this one is I missed it in Worlds Collide. I was very glad it came back, but it's an action with a bonus amber. It says deal 3 damage to a flank creature, 2 damage to its neighbor, and 1 damage to the second creature's other neighbor. Um, which is a really complicated way of saying start at the edge, deal 3, and then again. But but uh, I, I like how you know writing rules you stuff. But anyway, it's a great
Yeah.
card. Um, and I mean 6 total damage out of this.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's just a good way for pinging off those obnoxious little creatures, a daughter or Restringuntus or something small you want to get rid of and don't want to bother fighting into.
Yeah. Yep. All right, and then after that we have another star, Professor Tarato, who is a
Mm,
four-power mutant scientist, and he says each mutant creature gains reap, draw a card, which yeah is quite good.
yeah, just spectacular. It's the upgraded version of
Uh,
Sutterkin. Um, because you can play him on a logos turn when you already have other mutant creatures out, um, and you can reap with them and get the benefit of it. Because this is a witch, right? Like if your opponent has
yes,
this down and they have uh, any reasonable number of mutant creatures, it's a must kill. especially if they have more mutants than you.
Yes. Um, yeah. Also, like, just one of the creepier arcs, I think. I mean,
Hmm.
especially for being in Logos. Like,
Yeah.
hello there. Um,
What is that arm
yeah.
coming around from behind that
Right.
alien demony looking
He
thing?
hated. All right.
Speaking of mutants, um, the next one we have is a Research Smoko. This is a 2-power mutant. I believe one of the only mutants from the sets before Mass Mutation.
Yeah.
And it has the ability destroyed, archive the top card of your deck.
Yeah.
This is neat. Just little accelerant. Uh, it's kind of like the imps. Like if you
Hmm.
don't destroy this, I'm just gonna gain amber every time I go logos. If you did destroy it, I'll get a little bump.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And mentioning the imps, I think there was early on, um, one of the, I think I would call it a mistake that I made with these types of cards was thinking, oh, cool, it's my turn. I will run it into something. And at some point, I realized, oh no, it's much nicer to just, like you said, reap with it every turn, and then your opponent goes, oh, I can't have you doing that. I'll go smash it. Like, okay, cool. I'll just get this great destroyed effect now. So
Right, and they
better to
spend the
use it.
resources destroying it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me a long time to figure that out, but I think that is the
Pro
correct
tip.
way to use those creatures. Yeah, definitely. The next one we have is uh, sloppy lab work, or the correct pronunciation would be slappy lab work. Um, this is a action with a pip on it, Amber Pip on it, and it reads: play, archive a card, discard a card from your hand. Pretty great. We've been talking a lot about uh, the power of discarding and how much it lets you sort of craft and shape the game. And with a autoencoder, this card is just it's a dream.
Yeah. Um, yep, for sure. Yeah, I know. It's like it was a good card in Coda. I loved it. But
Hmm.
just so much better if you have an autoencoder.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Um, okay, cool. So now we're starting on the rares, and the first one that we will see is Academy Training. This one is an upgrade that says if you control this creature, it belongs to House Logos instead of its original house. And worth noting, all effects that say that a creature becomes, House X, imply instead of their house. Um,
Uh,
and but it also gives their creature reap, draw a card. Um, so yeah, it gives you that reap, and then you're gonna get to use that card on your logos turn, which often just translates to you're gonna get an extra use out of it that you got because you're about to board wipe or something. Hey,
right,
to use one card that you would otherwise, and draw a card.
right. Yeah, definitely extra happy to see this in a deck with something with a great reap ability.
Yeah.
It's gets you that extra use of it, and then yeah, it's just magnifying the greatness of that reap ability.
Um, and then we have Adaptoid, which is a 4-power mutant that adds 3 enhance icons, a capture, damage, and a draw. And it says after you play a card with a bonus icon, remainder of the turn, Adaptoid game. Choose one of these, +2 armor, Salt 2, White Steel. It's a really cool idea. The problem with it, in my experience, is that I feel like I don't get to use it with enough cards, right? Um, I haven't been able to get much of fire. I've seen other people use it, but I just haven't had your.
I would say largely the same. I'm kind of unimpressed. I most want to do Fight Steel 1, but it usually just dies. Like you can do that once, maybe twice, and then is dead. Um, and yeah, like playing it, getting it to stick on the board, getting back to a Logos turn where you then also have a enhancement in your hand. Um, it doesn't happen too often, and usually what happens is I just have to do extra clicking on TCO because you still have to choose one. You have to choose one every time you play an enhancement,
Right.
even if you're not playing the Logos turn. You
Oh
still have
gosh.
to like choose it.
Right.
So yeah.
Please kill it. Yeah.
Yeah, just let me stop clicking this every single time I play a Amber Pip. All right. Well, the next one we have here is a very interesting card.
Uh-huh.
Animator is an artifact, is an item, and it reads Action, move an artifact to a flank of its controller's battle line for the remainder of the turn. It is a creature with power 3 that belongs to the active house. It leaves the battle line when it's no longer a creature, which would be the end of the turn. Have you had any interesting or neat uses with Animator?
I have not had a good anime. It is interesting because it is like I like it because it's flexible, right? So I mean, I would love to get a deck with
Mhm.
it, but yeah, because uh, if if you're trying to destroy an opponent's artifact, it's great. Pull it out, and it happens to be the amount that either Munchling or Quixo will do. But if it's
Mhm.
but it also gives you the opportunity to like use one of your artifacts um, on your turn. So yeah, I would love
Right.
to get a deck that has like good setup for. I have not had it yet.
I yeah, I think the most common practical use for it is to destroy your opponent's autoencoder or destroy their um obsidian forge or whatever key artifact, their quixel stone, whatever key artifact they're hiding back there. So basically use it as hard R. I think it's probably the most common. um I think the dream is to have it in a deck with redacted, where you can put the redacted onto your battle line and then, play something with a capture icon and capture Amber onto redacted
Right.
and forge that way. Um, I recently played a game against somebody where they had a um, miasma bomb, and I thought I had the game in the bag because they chose Logos, and I had enough to forge my final key, and they chose Logos, and they brought their miasma bomb to their battle line, and they triggered it on their Logos turn because became a Logos creature when they brought it onto the battle line, and I hadn't even seen that. possibility coming in. Was in shock when I lost on the next
Yep. Yep. That can
turn. It was a very neat play. I was
be.
happy to lose to
Yep.
a cool play like that, so can't complain. The next one we have here is another artifact. This is the AutoVac 5150. This is an item, and it reads Action. You may discard a card from your archives. If you do, keys cost +3 during your opponent's next turn. Otherwise, archive the card. Pretty neat, pretty
Yeah.
versatile. I like the fact that if you don't need it right now to increase the key cost, you can still get something out of it, which
Yeah.
archiving a card is pretty good. Um, I also think it's really interesting to like uh uh one of the first decks that I opened, it was the deck I mentioned that had autoencoder, also had this, also had autovac, and so you could discard a card from your hand, which would then put something into your archive, and then you can use the autovac to discard that from your archive and increase the key costs,
Yep.
which is a long way to get there, but it'll stop a key in a pinch.
Yeah. No, that ability to boost, yeah, to do that all in one. And yeah, like you said, flexibility, um, flexibility to yeah to, to bump the key cost or to add stuff to your archives is just so good. I mean, it is a strictly better uh, library of damned, right?
Right. Yeah.
100%.
Well, it's Library of the Damned plus Lash of Broken Dreams. Like
Right, right, yeah, good.
hmm
Um, okay, so next one up is Cyberclone. This is a 1 power mutant, and it has play, purge another creature. Until Cyberclone leaves play, it has power equal to the purged creature's power and gains that creature's armor, keyword, and traits. So easy to get confused by this stuff, right? It gets the power,
hmm
the armor, keywords, which would include things like skirmish or active, but not
hmm
like a play or reap effect, and traits, which are like or um.
hmm
But yeah, I maybe this strong. Pick any of your opponent's creatures. Okay? You aren't seeing this again for the whole game. It's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I think that alone is usually um what I use it for.
Yeah, yeah. Just
It's hard.
crazy.
It's hard to use otherwise. I find. I don't know.
Yep. Okay, and the next one is this is one of my just overall favorite logos cards right now, at least. That is Entropic Swirl. It's an action. It says play choose a
hmm
creature, which trait that creature has. Which again, we just talked about what traits are. Deal 2 damage to it and gain 1 amber. There are some creatures that have 3 traits, although more typical to have just 1 or 2. I suppose if you just cyberclone creature that had 3 traits, cyberclone would at that point have 4 traits, which that'd be
Uh,
insane. But anyway, and then one of the great
yeah.
things about Entropic Swirl, you're getting all that amber, you're doing all that damage, and then Infernus just can't do anything.
That's true. That's a very good point. Yeah. I like the ice cream cone he's looking at there in the
Yeah,
picture too.
Yes. The co trippy.
Yeah. um, the next card we're looking at here is Hyde. This is a 4 power creature. This is a human scientist and pairs together with not Dr. Jekyll, but Vellum.
Yes.
It has the reap. So it's another one of those. Is it special rarity? Is that
Yes.
what it's called? Yeah. So it has the Reap ability. Reap, draw a card. If you control Vellum, draw 2 cards instead. And then destroyed, archive Vellum from your discard pile. If you do, archive Hyde.
Yeah. Solid. This and Vellum, always nice if you get them on the board, and
Mm-hmm.
use them. Um, but uh, in my experience, they haven't been like game win. They're always
Sure.
nice if you fire them, but not total fighters.
Yeah. I do think Vellum is better, just strictly better because of its instead of draw, the reap ability for Vellum is archive. And
Yep.
yeah, just we've discussed the superiority of archiving as opposed to drawing. Um, but I believe it was Blinking Line suggested he was playing a game with a Vellum or playing a deck several times with a Vellum and Hyde, and he was saying that he likes to um, not have both on the board at the same
Hmm.
time, and actually will discard um, most likely Hyde and keep Vellum on the board, so that when Vellum is destroyed, um, you can get them into the archive instead.
Right away.
Right,
Huh.
right. So then they're immediately archived, um, instead of like if you destroy it and it's on the board, then you have to, yeah, I guess, wait for the other one to be destroyed.
Interesting tactic.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
The next one we're looking at here is a very fun card. Can make for some crazy turns. This is an artifact. This is an item. It's action purge library card. If you do for the remainder of the turn after you play a card, draw a card.
Yep. Pretty good.
So this is they put the library access into an artifact. Um, what do you think? Is it better as an artifact, or did you prefer it as an action?
Um, I I think it's better as an action. It's interesting to
Hmm.
me because like I never thought the problem. So library access originally didn't say anything about string. That's
Right.
errata, and I never thought the problem was that you should only be able to play it once per game. I just thought you should only be able to play it once per turn. Um,
Mm,
and library card kind of solves that inherently by having it be action. So I think the purge is a bit unnecessary too. But
interesting. Yeah, that's a good thought.
um, but I mean, they know something I don't. And anyway, but theoretically, I guess it's well, this makes it slower. But
Hmm.
it could be that you can set up the flexibility. But this also opens up more of a likelihood to have some weight. That's the that's the big downside.
Right. And Yeah, like if there's any hard R, you're in trouble. If, on the other hand, your opponent does not have any hard R, um, and you're fortunate enough to get it in your opening hand, and you have the little mini first turn, you can play it on your little mini turn, and then just it can sit there until you've crafted the perfect giant logos hand to drop all at once. So
Yeah,
I think there's advantages and disadvantages, but I would say generally you're right. It's a little bit safer as an action.
yeah.
Um, Safer from yeah, your opponent exploiting it with like a
Some
nexus or something.
shenanigans.
Yeah, borrow. You definitely don't want that. Um, or even just destroying it before you can use it.
Nope. Okay, so next up is now this is actually one of my least favorite logos cards. Master the
Mm,
Theory is an action with a bonus amber, and it says play if there are no friendly creatures in play, you may archive a card for each enemy creature. And the frustrating thing to me here is it's just such a like uh, there are no friendly creatures in play. Um, Means you're behind, you're struggling, you're losing. So he is just like, this card doesn't really do enough to help me bounce back from being behind like that. Um,
right.
so I just find like anytime you're excited to play the card, it's probably and and bad. I mean, I don't know how you want.
Yeah, and it's like it's just not that exciting. It's like best case scenario, um, they have a big board and you have no creatures and then you play it. But then like okay, so they have 6 creatures and then you're archiving you've outdone everything in your hand, right? Like if you have
Right,
at least one or two other logos cards, then you're archiving the 3 other cards in your hand, and then the rest of
right.
it is just like your opponent just has that many more creatures on the board. So it's really not great.
No. And then after that is Mind Over Matter, and this one is crazy. I guess it's like a logos version of
Mhm.
Hysteria, but it's an action that says put each
Right.
creature into its owner's archives. That that is really crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's pretty good anti-dino tech. Um, it's pretty
Yeah,
good against Sanctum as well. But it can also just be not helpful.
yeah. Um, yeah, definitely possible. Yeah, it's such a weird card, and I haven't had a deck where like I felt like okay, I want to play this,
Right.
but very interesting. Can't deny that.
You could imagine like a shadows deck with like a bunch of bows or something. It could be good.
Yeah, archive all the bows, and yeah, and you could play this before you then play the cards that start. Um,
Sure, yeah. So you have a board and they don't. Yeah.
I guess also if you had the archivist, suddenly I'll have to see the archivist.
That could be pretty good. Yeah.
That's two rares.
Right, right. So good luck. Yeah.
Right.
The next one is another card that I think gets some hate. Mobius scroll. This is an artifact. This is an item. Action archive Mobius scroll and up to 2 cards from your hand.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it's that efficiency.
Right.
It takes a while to get it set up and to get it going, and then um you know, it, you really, really, really want to archive two of the same cards, I feel like, because otherwise, sorry, you really, really want to archive two cards of the same house,
Yes.
because otherwise, effectively, you're archiving one card of each house, which is just not super efficient. Um,
Right.
but you can always just choose not to use it that turn and wait until there's a better moment for it. So,
Yeah, I think yeah. Contrasting this to the card that I like to call the casual, um, Mobius scroll, right? It's archiving two other cards, but the flip side is it takes 2 turns to set up.
sure.
So, um, yeah, it's just a little slow, but yeah, that ability is a strong one. It's just slow to set up.
Yeah. And with the archivist, this could be really great actually.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
All right, the next one we have here is perceptive grammar bot. Um
Prescriptive.
prescriptive, thank you. Prescriptive grammar bot. This is a 3 power creature. This is a robot. It has taunt, it has hazardous 3, and it has the reap ability in reap enrage a creature. This is an odd one.
Yeah.
You don't see, yeah, it's got a lot of stuff going on. Um, you don't see a lot of taunting in Logos.
No.
I can't say I have a deck where I feel like this is really great, but you can definitely see it being useful. Put a daughter back there, put a Toronto back there or something.
Yeah, I always two things. One, I think like that name itself just being the mess uh of way more consonant vowels than it is. Uh, I just it fits the theme of the card. Like it's there. It's just there to upset you. And then and
Yeah.
then and then the second thing, I always imagine it looks like the robot smoking a cigar. I don't think that's actually what's happening, but I just like to imagine the, the robot sitting there smoking some sort of hot cigar, like puff puff, and here I'm gonna correct you, people.
And being pedantic and yeah.
Bad, bad robot. Um, all right. So next one up is redacted, and this is an artifact. Its trait is redacted. Um,
Mhm.
redacted. And after you choose Logos as your active house, you put an amber for common supply on a redacted. When there are 4 amber or more on redacted, you destroy it and for cost. Um, that can be pretty cool. It just means that you are going to have to call Logos at least a minimum uh, 5 times to actually get fire, which is
Yeah.
5 is a lot of turns.
Yeah, if you don't see it early, it's not gonna
Yeah,
happen.
but
But it's
yeah,
a super, super fun card if you can get it out there and, if your opponent isn't packing any hard R or well, I guess if they have artifact bounce, then you're in trouble. But if they don't have any R, like that's great. Like
yep, for sure. And yeah, once in a while you see a deck with like 2 of these that can pull off. They can be
yeah,
super fun. Um,
yeah,
but
and then you mull for it, and you're in a
right,
pretty likely to be able to get it. So
right.
yeah.
And then the next one is one that is back from Coda, and uh, yes, it's a very fun logo card. It's an action. It's first time, and it has a bonus amber, and it says play swap your deck and your discard pile, then shuffle your deck. And this one is so cool just because it's such a great example of low stuff that breaks the rules.
Mhm. Yeah. It can just be so powerful. If you play through a bunch of logos and then get to it and then play it and then you go all the way back through all that logos again, or
Yes.
if it's just like um there's some neat combos I've seen people do with um Grim Reminder and Reverse Time. So you put everything you're about to draw, you put into the discard, and then you pull it up from your discard into your archive. Yeah, there's
Oh
a lot of
wow.
neat tricks you can do with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty messed up.
Uh-huh. Get like your 3 Infernuses all at once
Yeah,
into your archive. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. I also like the flavor text. Time back turn could I if.
Yes. Uh, self-referential text.
Yes. Yes. They like that. Next up, another Coda classic, Skippy Time Hog, a 1 power mutant creature that reads play. Your opponent cannot use any cards during their next turn. Um, Cards can still be played and discarded. Really obnoxious. Really frustrating.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you can still play discard cards, you just can't use it.
Right. Yeah, and it can just it's interesting to see Logos stepping into the disruption field
Yeah.
because it's not their typical game, but it can really mess with you when that's played at a inopportune moment for you.
Yeah, when they do it, they're really all in. Um,
Mhm.
because this
Yes.
is well, there are cards that say you can't fight or you keep, but this is the
Yeah,
only card
opposition
that just
research.
says you
Yeah,
can't use a card. So
sure.
anyways,
Yeah, yeah. Next up is the Archivist. This is a 3 power cyborg creature, and it reads: if you archive the Archivist, archive it face up, which is, I think, the only card in Keyforge that does that.
yep.
Um, while the Archivist is in your archives, instead of picking up all of your archives, you may choose to pick up any number of cards in your archives.
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
neat.
yeah, pretty cool.
I it's one of those cards that I have. I wake up in the middle of the night with crazy ideas about how it could work, and I open up 1,000 tabs searching for decks on decks of Keyforge to buy, and it just never works out the way that I envision it working.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think yeah, like even looking at the one where mind over matter that puts cards into archives, it does not archive cards, it puts cards into archives. So so no, it will not work on the archivist. That's the kind of the issue, is there are so few ways to reliably get it to fire.
Right. Right. Yeah, you need like a sloppy lab work or a very lucky hit
Yeah.
with the auto encoder or something. Yeah, it's not a card you can build your game plan around reliably.
Yep. Yep. Um, all right, cool. So the next one is also well, this one's an oldie. So the Howling Pit is an artifact with a bonus amber, and it says during their draw card step, each player refills their hand to one additional card. I think this is just a fun card. It's good for your game plan, but it's good for your opponent too. Everybody has more.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Make the game better.
Yeah. Um, and then Universal Key Lock is another artifact with a bonus amber, and it's an item, and it says keys cost +3. And after a player forges a key, destroy Universal Key Lock. Pretty simple.
Yeah. Really great versus bursty decks, and if you're trying to build to something and like set up a big board state or something, this will really help you buy time.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, Next one here. Um, this is great. Make the dyslexic read this. Um, Zen Zik
Mhm.
is a uh 4 power cyborg leader with 2 armor. This is a creature. It reads during your draw card step, if Zenzik is in the center of your battle line, refill your hand to 2 additional cards. So
Yes,
this
please.
is a really, yeah, yeah, really, really powerful card. Really great to see early game. It can be very hard for your opponent to get off the board, and it can just set you up for a really great game.
Yep. Argument.
Pretty upsetting if it shows up later and you can't get it into the center easily. That can be um,
Yeah, that's kind of always the game with leaders. But I
mm,
think I think this is one of my uh I think Val is my favorite, and then I think maybe this, and then um
hmm
that's the order. But Val and Zenzi are both so good just because they.
right. Yeah, yeah. The next one is It's Coming, which is action card with an amber pip on it. Um, this is always going to be in combination with a gigantic creature.
You know
Um,
what? I'll just scroll to gigantic creature, and you can cover that.
yeah, that makes sense. So just to finish this here, the It's Coming lets you search your deck and discard POW for either half of a gigantic creature, reveal it, and put it into your hand, and then you shuffle your deck. And the Logos gigantic creature is Ultra Gravitron, um, which is a 10 power, 3 armor creature. Um, obviously, like any of the uh, gigantic creatures, you have to play both halves at once. So it's one creature across 2 cards. The play effect is archive the top 5 cards of your deck, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Um, and then the fight/reap ability is discard a card from your archives. If you do, purge a creature and resolve each of its bonus icons as if you had played it.
Serious. Interesting. I think I just hadn't realized this before, but the nothing on there says May, right? It's archive the top 5 cards, discard a card. If you do, purge a creature. Um, but you don't have a choice but whether you discard it. You have a card you have to discard. Um, but
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
yeah, but just I mean, it's a super powerful. It's really good board control, which is so weird because that's not what you expect out of a locust creature, but it's such good board.
Right. Yeah. With that 3 armor, you can do quite a bit of fighting before you're really going to feel it.
Yeah. Yep. Um. Okay, so Then winding. Here's Vellum. We kind of already talked about. Just the opposite of
Hmm.
hide, except 2 power. It archives and drawing. It has a third destroyed effect. And if you look, their art matches up just like Ivan and Oddclaw does. Um,
Right. Yeah.
and then we have the rest of the bots. Um, so the Dino one is bigger because it's a Dino, and also because it's a Dino, it has that play effect. You may exalt Dinobot if you do creature. That seems fine. That to me that ability is just totally orthogonal to the Reap. Um, but
Mm.
but having it be 5 power is not bad. So I'm never sad to see Dinobot.
Hmm. Yeah, they don't like synergize well, the two abilities,
Yeah,
but that that board control is nice to see.
yeah,
It's good to have. And the fact that it's optional is good too if you don't want to put that amber out there.
yep. Um, and then the Lycobot is um 1 extra power because of the side of it, 4 power, and then it gets skirmish. That's the part. And this is just totally counter synergistic. There's no value in having with have skirmish.
No, no, it is not helpful at all. So it's just got one more power is really all it really does for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Go
Next
ahead.
up is oh yeah. Next up is Odd Claude, who we sort of already covered. Um, he's just uh, the one who can steal odd amounts of amber instead
Yep.
of even amounts of amber, and I think he has one more power, right? Uh,
Correct.
even
It's 5 instead of 4.
even Ivan is four,
Yep.
right? Which matches up thematically there.
Yeah. So it would.
Um, yeah. Next up is the Sacrobot, which is the Sanctum um, matchup, which gives you 5 power and 2 armor. Um, I mean, I guess it's better than the Lycobot. Like
Yeah.
you'd prefer it to just be stickier,
Yep.
right? Instead of having a basically useless skirmish ability.
Yep.
So that's good, I guess. But yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't really it doesn't really synergize, so whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. But it is stickier, and that's not bad. So I don't mind
Mm,
this version of it. But nothing to write home about.
sure. And then the next one is the Umbra bot, which is the Shadows um variant, which gives it elusive, which is you know, kind of similar. It'll just have more sticking power. Doesn't synergize particularly well, but makes it harder for your opponent to get rid of it.
Yep. Totally. And then the last one is Xenobot, which is I think the worst. Well,
Hmm. Absolutely. Yep.
it gets that extra power. So it's 4 power, mutant scientist, but it gets the fight ability. To look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put one at the bottom of your deck, and that's just. I mean, I guess if you have to use it to fight, then you're rather it have an ability than not, but just
Hmm.
does not synergize. Really, for that fight effect, you want either skirmish or the bigger size on the armor. Um, uh, yeah, putting it
The
just sad.
Yeah. Is this the only creature in the game that has a separate fight and reapability that is not a fight reapability. Like,
Um, I
I
mean,
can't think of any others.
other than Techno Alien, yes.
Right, 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 right.
Oh, wait, no. Nero Taurus has them, but they are, um,
Oh, is
yeah,
that the, like, if you reap, your opponent cannot fight, and if you fight, your opponent cannot reap?
it's something along those lines, yeah.
Right, 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 right.
But, that,
That's
like,
better.
yeah, it is, it is. Yes,
Definitively better.
yes, I agree. Um, cool. Okay, well, that's it. We did it. We walked through um Logos in Mass Mutation. Um,
Oh,
yeah, I'm just kind of, I get again impressed by all the discard and the random archives, that really, like, I think they did a great job exploring those and kind of being like, hey, this is, it's still obvious that this is Logos, but it is a different Logos. Then that was cool.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think to sort of, like, tie up my, thinking and experience with Mass Mutation, um, Logos, like, when I started playing, Keyforge, I would never discard anything.
Uh
Um,
huh.
and I would hold cards, for way, 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 way too long. Like, hold, the classic beginner player mistake of, like, holding on to, like, a
Hmm.
Night Forge or something for like 5 turns. Um, and just play it, get an amber, and move
Yeah.
on. Um, and I think in a lot of ways, playing lots of Mass Mutation Logos really clarified for me the the power of discarding, and uh, autoencoder specifically really made that very, like, uh, I mean, obviously autoencoder makes discarding better, but, like, all the discarding I was doing when playing autoencoder decks made me realize that there's
Right.
still value to it in
Right.
decks without autoencoder.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Mhm.
There's a um corollary. I'll try to tell the very short version, but back when I was playing a lot of Netrunner, um, there was like, I had a mentality of wanting to, like, I wanted to build my board state and then never allow any of it to go away, and
Mhm.
play very defensive. But in Netrunner, if you're the runner, you have to be very aggressive. And there was a particular character that had the ability that anytime you used abilities on cards that trash themselves, um, draw a card. And so it really, like, made you lean into this play style of destroying everything. And then
Mm.
that was really cool, and I started playing as him. But then there was a card that you could, like, that game, when you get through your deck, that's it. You're out of deck. Um, but there was a card that you could play that would cycle your deck. So I'd always want, as many
Oh,
copies as
wow.
I possibly could of that card. And then finally I just, like, gave in and played him without that even. So it was like it forced you to try to win on the first pass, right? Because you don't get a second pass. And it was it
Okay,
was it was
right.
a, it was just a really liberating experience to kind of say, like, okay, this is what the game is now. And anyway, that's not that ended up not being a top tier thing. But then taking that experience and then going and playing other archetypes, I was able to play them better because of having learned that. Is a long point getting
Right.
around to.
Yeah, which I think is yeah, I think that's kind of the same thing I was trying
Yeah.
to say there. It's just that it really clarified for me the power of yeah, discarding and cycling your cards and moving through your deck.
Yeah, totally, totally. Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this with me, Peter. And uh, yeah, can't wait to see this go up on both our channels. So just really quick, for everybody out there, just give another quick ad for what you're doing on.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you very much for having me. It was a very enjoyable conversation. Cull the Weak, we will take a couple of different decks and play them against each other in a round robin across several different episodes. And then at the end of the season, we have to make a choice about which of the decks we brought that we want to cull and which one we want to keep and hold on to. And like I said, recently we've been kind of doing other stuff, looking at some KFPL games and doing some sealed games. But we will be back to culling whenever Fantasy Flight decides to grace us with the next set.
Nice. I heard it's officially March 12th. So
Oh, hooray!
yeah,
Okay, I
yep,
hadn't
yep,
heard that yet. Oh,
yep.
this is my live reaction to hearing that excellent
Quick,
news.
turn the camera. Yeah. I mean, it's FFG, so I always take it with a grain of salt, but that is the official word.
Mm. Yeah, and even if they do release it, then I'm sure I won't get my decks until April or something. So
But then it'll be all the sweeter.
that's
All
right.
right. All right. Well, yeah, thanks again, Peter, so much, and for everybody out there, thanks for joining us on this journey, and I hope that you will find one way or another, whether it's with your household or online or safe way, if you're able to do it, forge some keys.
Yeah, keep forging.